No, I want to cover in 5 minutes what being Oxford teach in a week, and then I've been doing for 30 years, and I'm getting better at it slowly. RAND was the organization that started scenario planning in the 50s, but I think it was sort of mainly Shell who made it more popular when it brought scenario planning into the private sector in the 70s. So we're talking here about a almost 50-year-old discipline, so definitely not something new. What it basically is it's what-if thinking. It's really focused on getting you to understand what assumptions are we really making about the future that we are at some point going to enter, or rather, as we say, the future that's going to arrive, because it will arrive whether we move or not. Some assumptions we make explicitly. I often read annual reports and I see what organizations are thinking that the future might hold. But many assumptions are implicit, and oftentimes assumptions are they differ amongst management teams. And one of the great things about scenario planning is that it allows you to find disagreements and turn them into an asset from a liability. Disagreement and differences of view in management teams are an asset, and you need to nurture those and not try to get rid of them to find the consensus view or make all noses point in the same direction, which in our view is only leading to not seeing what's happening behind you. So it's a process rather than aimed at a product. It's not something you buy or get someone else to do for you, because it's really about you yourself doing some thinking. It's about embracing uncertainty. It's definitely, as Raj said, uncertainty is not only a threat or a risk, it actually is an opportunity for doing things better or differently. And scenarios, if you want to say it in just one line, they're plausible stories. They're memorable, coherent stories of how the context, the organizational context, or the context for your business or your industry might evolve into the future. And you're always looking at more than one alternative plausible context to the one that we are implicitly assuming will happen. And the exercise is then to place yourself in those few different alternative contexts that you need to describe in a plausible way, so people believe that could happen, make it relevant to the particular challenge that the organization has. Stand in that future and look back at today and think, what would I do differently if I knew what was going to happen? If I look at the today, the 2020, from the viewpoint of 2040 or 2030 or 2025, what do I learn? What do I see when I look back from the future to today? It tells us, having used scenario planning for many years, it is possible, it's not even difficult to embrace uncertainty, to not turn it into a risk and pass it on to some poor person in risk management or audit who then has to deal with it. Risk, or uncertainty rather, needs to be managed by everyone in the organization, not just by dedicated individuals. We always say, don't use someone else's scenarios, because they, if they've created them, will have made scenarios that apply and talk to their challenges and to their concerns. You need to do the work yourself, because everybody's context and everybody's ideals and strategic intents are different. With COVID-19, as the questionnaire also suggests, we certainly will not go back to how things were before. Some things will remain the same, many things will be challenged, and many things will be different. Especially in the first few years, we're definitely going to look at a massive debt overhang, and we haven't seen half of what's going to happen in health and education systems in, for example, the developing world. So that could, if I think about who I talk to, mean we're all in crisis mode. But counterintuitively, this is the time when you can think long term. This is the time when, although some of the organizations might be in crisis mode because they have to keep things floating, many parts, many persons in organizations, many resources in organizations are actually working, not having to go to all kinds of meetings, although there's a lot of Zoom stuff to attend to, and there is spare thinking time. So the analogy we use is, don't consider this time as a period where you have to cover your car with a tarpaulin and wait for the storm and then drive out onto the road again, because the road will be different. The road may not look the same as it did before. The capabilities and skills you may need after Corona will be different. So treat this as a pit stop. In a pit stop, you change the tires. In a pit stop, you might do some stuff to the software as well. In the pit stop, you evaluate what might the circuit look like when I drive out. And that's the final thing to say. Most of our clients are now interested in considering what are the scenarios for the post-COVID world. And there is actually a lot of good work taking place there.